kiddos got to stay up way past their bedtime. That's awesome. The Wild now move on to round two, set to face the top-seeded Colorado Avalanche. Game one will be in Denver. It's expected either Sunday or Monday. But coming up in just 30 minutes, the Wolves, even shorthanded, ending Denver's season and moving on. I will break down exactly how they pulled it off. Also, watching those clips of those fans, I saw them all. You know, that one guy had the towel on his head, and it made me think when I was live at Grand Casino Arena for game one, and they had the different towel for each game. Imagine if you went to all the games and you just got to collect all the towels.
You deserve it. Prices weren't cheap. You were like, I want a full-length towel for these prices.
Yeah.
Exciting,
but I would have loved to have been there. The energy, watching back those highlights, and just the crowd.
I had to turn the TV down because the kids were sleeping, and the loudness of the Grand Casino Arena was like unfathomable. It was amazing.
You can't blame them. These fans have been waiting for this. It's been more than a decade since
Absolutely.
we've gotten past the first round.
Yes. State of Hockey deserves this.
Megan, thanks so much.
Of course, we're going to be following the Wolves and the Wild as they continue their playoff runs. Make sure you stick with us on air and on our streaming app, KARE 11 Plus. Download and watch for free.
All right, 6:06, we do have to get to breaking news from overnight out of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So right now, St. Paul homicide detectives are investigating a shooting at the Sibley Park Apartments. That's just off of East 7th Street and North Sibley Street. We have brand new video from the scene from overnight. Police say a man called just before 9 p.m. saying he'd been shot. He was brought to the hospital where he later died. Investigators are working to find out what led up to the shooting. They say they don't believe there's a threat to the community.
And in Minneapolis, crews were on scene of two fires in the last few hours at the Carmel Mall and Montclair Apartments. Let's start with the scene at Montclair just before 2 a.m. Fire crews told us the fire started in an apartment on the second floor and everyone was evacuated. People living there were loaded onto buses, unable to go back in. They would not say if there were any injuries. And then about an hour later, crews were called to a fire at the Carmel Mall. They tell us a kitchen fire started at the Deg Deg Grill. They say the damage was not extensive and there were no injuries.
We have new video into the newsroom this morning showing a huge support for the Richfield officer who was shot in the hand earlier in the week. He was just released from the hospital yesterday. Police say they were confronting a carjacking suspect early Wednesday morning when the person ran and then took out a gun. The suspect was shot and killed. The BCA is still investigating. Well, right now, police are looking for a 22-year-old man accused of posing as a White Bear Lake High School student after he did not show up for court. Court officials say Kelvin Lubke skipped his first appearance on fraud charges. He's accused of using a foreign birth certificate to enroll at the high school last fall. Court documents say his story started to unravel after he was arrested on outstanding warrants. Someone who saw his mugshot recognized him as a student going by a different name.
We are live in our nation's capital, where this morning the longest government shutdown in history is over. President Trump signed a bill funding most of Homeland Security just hours after it passed the House. That bill will reopen key parts of the department, including TSA, but it leaves out funding for ICE. Democratic lawmakers refuse to fund immigration enforcement without significant changes in the wake of the shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Now Republicans will have to find a way to fund ICE without Democratic votes using a complex budget reconciliation process.
Developing this morning, the Trump administration says it's freezing another $91 million in Medicaid funding for Minnesota. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services posted this video online saying that they have new concerns about fraud after a recent DOJ investigation into child care centers in the state. This comes after the federal government deferred more than $250 million from Minnesota back in February. Now, in a statement, Governor Tim Walz arguing this is a transparent effort from the Trump administration to cut funding for working people. He says the state will not stand for this, quote, continued campaign of retribution.